Good morning, and welcome to another session of Coffee with the Commission Legislative Series. I want to begin by thanking everyone for joining us today. I am Vaughn Poe, the Executive Director of the Alabama Real Estate Commission, and we are here to talk about legislation. Mute notice and administrative note for those attending. If you have questions, please use the raise your hand icon. Once you've finished asking your question, please lower your hand and mute yourself again, or remute yourself, I guess. We want to make sure that all attendees have an opportunity to pose questions and also to offer comments. This is a forum, and so we want feedback from anyone attending. We want your questions and your concerns. This recording will be published over our social media later this week, at latest Monday of next week, but look for it out there. We'll have notices that we send out as well, just making sure folks know that the recording is out there and exactly where it's located, but it will be located in multiple locations. All right, this morning, I am joined by a star-studded cast of panelists consisting of your peers, regulators, and also administrators. Right now, the Alabama Real Estate Commission has issued roughly 45,806 total licenses. Those licenses are issued to 39,926 practitioners. We also issue and regulate 920 education licenses. So the work that the agency has to do is growing by the day. I think currently our rate of increase is about 4 or 5 new license applications per day. And so this thing is not shrinking in as much as we're concerned. And so the work that we've done here on the legislation is even more imperative because we're having more individuals come into the practice. And unfortunately, we need to even correct some of our indoctrination processes. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. But before we go any further, I want to let our panelists introduce themselves and give a brief introduction as to who they are and what they do.
Good morning. I'm Betsy Eccles. I'm Commissioner for District 3. I have been a licensed agent for 34 years and a broker and owner of a company.
All right, good morning also. I'm Jimmy Ann Campbell. I'm from here in Montgomery. I am a commissioner from District 2. And I've been in the business 49 years. That's a long time.
My name is Anna Marie Ellison, and I served on the Broker Oversight and Licensure Task Force. I work in the senior leadership for a company in the Birmingham area.
I'm Zach Burr. I'm the Assistant General Counsel here at the Alabama Real Estate Commission.
I'm Serena Kroger. I'm one of the attorneys working the legal division with Zach Burr.
I'm Ryan Adair. I'm the Education Director, and I've been with the Commission for a little over 22 years.
I'm Janie Wood. I'm the current president of AREA, the Alabama Real Estate Educators Association. I am a licensee and I have been practicing for almost 22 years.
I'm Tanya Smitherin. I am the president of NAREB, which is the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, the local branch in Birmingham Realtors, and I am a practitioner as well, a broker, associate broker, and I have been practicing for 10 years.
My name is Debbie Wood. I'm a state representative representing District 38, which is part of Lee County and part of Chambers. I began my real estate career in 1993 as an agent, and in 2000 opened my own company in a little small town that had no real estate company. So I think that that's very important. When we look across our state, we think that we're flooded, but there are areas that still need representation. So I'm excited to be a part of this panel today.
Thank you. And having said that, and having heard from our panelists, I want to take a moment to make sure the audience understands the gratitude that the commission has for you all. This was a process that took several years, as you know, and we had individual practitioners participating on task forces. And I think that's emblematical of what we've tried to do here, in that we listen to you. We listened. We didn't just sit here at the castle and say, well, we're the commission, so we've got it, and here are the new rules, and there you go. And if you don't like it, there you go. We didn't do that. We conducted several task forces. We addressed the issues and concerns that were brought to us by licensees. I think the legislation that was passed absolutely answers most of those questions. There are a few lingering issues out there, but this was something that I think that will be generational for real estate in Alabama. We don't just live in a bubble here, and so our commissioners and our staff also take a national viewpoint of real estate as an industry and also as regulators. I mean, that's what we do. I think one thing that our staff here has done well is recognize and understand that we are a business-friendly regulatory body. This is Alabama, so that's important to know. We are business-friendly. We absolutely understand that most of our licensees are small business owners. They're feeding their families off of their license. They're sending their kids to college off of their license. So it's important that we as regulators are not necessarily impediments, but more importantly, are facilitators of that process. Specifically, beyond our task forces, our legal division did a lot of work in concert with some of our external partners to get this thing sorted out before it even made it across the street. Zach Burr was one of our primary architects in writing, and he has done probably more legal writing than he cared to do since law school, but we got it done. And you all have to understand that anytime we had a change or modification, there was a process that it had to go through with our external partners, with the commissioners, and just making sure that it made sense. And more importantly, making sure that those changes were enforceable. Serena Cronier helped a lot with external affairs. So she went with me, talking with our bill sponsors and sort of working through the legislative process across the street, trying to see where things need to be and who had questions or concerns. And there were some, and we answered those. I want to thank our commissioners for giving me the freedom to sort of do what needed to get done to make this happen. Not everyone has that freedom, even in my role. And so all of this came together finally after about 4 or 5 years, and that's the product that you all see now. Ryan Adair, if you're in education, you know Ryan, but he's our SME on education. Our education bill, House Bill 225, was magnanimous, I'll say that, because we did a lot in 225. We restructured how we issue licenses. We restructured the broker licensee relationship. We codified a lot of that into writing. We provided checklists so that even a new or novice broker can pick up a sheet of paper and say, okay, what should this agent be able to do on day one? And that's something our task force uncovered as practitioners, because very often we have 2-year qualifying brokers and they're leading folks and they're not quite as knowledgeable as they could be. And so I think that particular piece of legislation addressed that a lot. I won't talk too much more. We'll get into the actual meat and potatoes of why we're here, but I thought it important to just talk about the gratitude that we have, because this was a team effort. It's taken us years to get here, and I don't want folks to walk away thinking that we don't appreciate you. Even AREA showed up to one of our committee meetings and voiced their concerns and opinions, and I would offer that that's probably a good course of action, because if we make a rule change here at the commission, it affects the 49,000 licenses that we've issued. Even a rule change, it sounds minute, it's nothing, right? 49,000 people are affected by that. And if we don't understand what they're doing on the street, we could have just caused a problem. We've got sectors of real estate, as you'll see in this bill, in this legislation as well, where we've broken out the practice: residential, commercial, property management, and land brokers. And land brokers being the thing that we didn't quite get to this time, but we'll talk about that more later. But when you break real estate out in that way, you really understand where our practitioners are. And I think that's important when you're talking about changing regulations or rules, because you need to know how folks are practicing. Things that we here may not understand are commonplace out there. So the task forces were necessary. Thank you all again very, very much. Having said that, I think Serena is going to get us started with one of our briefs. We're going to have 2 briefs, folks, but if you have questions, please ask those questions. This is a form. It may seem formal, but it's really a form and very casual. So as you have questions, please prompt us. If you have a question you want to ask via chat, I am monitoring the chat. So fire your questions away. With that, Serena.
Yes. Good morning. I'm here to talk about Act 2025-380, which is also known as House Bill 382. I'm going to call it our miscellaneous bill because we've kind of got miscellaneous, we've got education, and then we've got some changes to RECAD that y'all are going to see coming up. And so let's start with this one. First, this bill defines buyer's agreement, listing agreement, principal broker, and teams. So teams is new to the Real Estate Commission. I know people have been using teams. They may be a member of a team, but it wasn't in our license law. So now it is. So this bill would defines teams as well. It also limits out-of-state co-brokerage agreements to 3 co-brokerage agreements per year for the out-of-state broker, not to exceed $50 million per year. And so that's both.
And right now, there's no cap. And so this just says if you're going to be doing this many transactions or this amount of transactions, that you need to get a license in the state. It increases maximum fines for license law violations from $2,500 per count to $5,000 per count. This will help deter, hopefully, some of our violators. Some people, $2,500 was not enough. And so this will allow the maximum fine to be $5,000 per count. It removes providing the commission a bad check from being a license law violation. Before, we were having a lot of people just accidentally type in a number that was wrong, and that we would get it as a return check, and we didn't have the authority to not charge them. And so now, if you make a mistake, just a simple error, then you'll have the opportunity to fix it and not have to go into our monthly publication. And so that will be helpful. I know a lot of people are excited about that. Lots of cheering for that one. And instead, if a bad check is provided and not remedied within 30 days, then the license will become inactive. Failure to make full payment within 6 months will result in the license lapsing. So that's the new process for that. This bill also limits dual agency to when a licensee with informed written consent represents all parties to the transaction. It removes sub-agency from statute. It replaces the term transaction broker with transaction facilitator. The term broker has importance. A lot of people think, oh, broker, important, in charge, and transaction broker was really the least amount that you could represent somebody. So now we've kind of mirrored it. So what you're doing is being represented in the term. So you're facilitating the transaction. And so that's been changed. And then it allows for one licensee in a company to represent a buyer and another licensee in the same company to represent the seller in the same transaction without dual agency being automatically created, and instead creates two designated single agents. And that's with the agents. A qualifying broker can't be a designated single agent because they are the one actually designating these two agents. It allows a licensee to use any branch office of the company under which he or she is licensed to meet clients. A lot of people may have already been doing that or may thought they could, but under existing law, prior to this act, you couldn't. And so now you can. If you've got a branch office and you're not licensed in it and it's over in, down in Gulf Shores, you can go down there and use that office. And so that'll be a nice, convenient change. All right, so I'm going to start into teams a little bit. Does anybody have a question before I get into teams?
Serena, I do have a question on the designated agent versus transaction facilitator. So as a practitioner, we need to start working on updating our documents internally to reflect those changes.
Yes, I would start working on your internal forms, your internal processes. But remember, it's not going to become effective till October. So make sure nothing that you're putting out to your consumers or putting out to your licensees, make sure none of that has the terms that become effective in October prior to October. So just pay attention whenever we talk about the effective dates for licensing, for this miscellaneous bill. Now, the one Zach's going to talk about already became effective in April, but for these, make sure you're paying attention to the effective dates. But yes, you need to go ahead and start preparing for it because October is going to be here before you know it.
So if I'm thinking about the contract, so we're a member of a couple different associations and they have a contract. On the first page of that contract that an agent's going to write an offer on, like right in the middle of almost all of them, you've got the agency that's designated on the list side and the buy side. Those boxes are going to be needed to be updated, is what we're talking about. Okay.
Start working on them now. Yep. Okay, that's correct. Any more questions before we get into teams? All right. So this bill, I keep going to go acting bill. This bill created teams. And I know that currently there is a lot of information out there. We've had several drafts of legislation before. So some people may not understand that this is the final product. So I want to be very clear. This is now what the law is. So some of these things in this law will look different than a lot of the prior drafts that you may have been exposed to. So this law requires the leader of a team to be designated as a team leader with a qualifying broker. It does not require the team leader to be an associate broker or a qualifying broker. It can just be a regular licensee, but it does have to be designated as a team leader with a qualifying broker. It requires the team leader to maintain a list of the members of the team and provide that list to the qualifying broker. So both the team leader and the qualifying broker should both have a written list of their team members. One question I had was, well, do we have to put some of our staff members that aren't licensed on this team list? No, if they are not licensed, they do not have to be on the team list, but all your licensees that are on the team need to be listed and they need to be kept up to date. It prevents licensees from being a member on more than one team. So right now you may have somebody on 3 teams, part of, husband and wife team over here, team over here. You can only be on one now. But again, that doesn't prevent your staff members from being on more teams. And again, you don't have to list them on the list that we are going to be checking when we do audits. It allows the commission to adopt rules regarding advertising criteria for teams, and it requires teams to, at a minimum, include the name of at least one of the team members in any advertisement, the name of the company with whom the licensee is licensed in any advertisement, include the term team or group in the team's name, and receive written authorization from the qualifying broker of the licensee to include the team's name in any advertisement. And so right now, you could name your team, or prior to this law becoming effective, you could have your team name anything you wanted it to be. Well, now you're going to have the word team or group in your team name. That does not mean that if you have a company name with the word team or, in it, that it's not going to affect any company names. It's only going to be affecting the actual team names. Any questions about team? All right. I'll hand it back over to you, Mr. Poe.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. Are there any questions in the audience? I know that was a lot of information pushed out very rapidly, but are there any questions out there? Questions. Again, the criteria that was just, we do have a question. All right, I have a raised hand and from Amanda Adams.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Great, how are you?
I'm well. I'm sorry I couldn't make it down there to Montgomery today. I'm out in the country. You might hear a chicken crowing in the background. I have a question about teams. Is there going to be any limitation on team names? For example, if the team has the name Realty in the name,
Yes,
do
there
you
will.
anticipate making any rules on that?
Yes, there will be some limitations. And the reason why there will be limitations is because we don't want consumers to think that this team is actually a company. And so if there is going to be a word that makes it look like a company, that's not going to be permissible. So I would be looking out for a rule in the future that would say you can't use these terms or a term that would make it appear to be a company.
And just for clarification, the term realty is not one of those prohibited terms. So you could have a team name that's like the best realty team, and that's permissible. Words that will be prohibited would be words that indicate that your company is that your team is actually a business entity, such as corporation, limited liability company, partnership, business, enterprise, and company, or any other word that makes it sound like the team isn't really just a team, but an actual company. So those are the words that are prohibited, but realty would be permissible.
All right, Amanda, does that answer your
you.
question? Excellent.
It does. Thank you.
We have another question.
So when you start advertising your team name, because your broker has approved that, you will also need to include the broker's trade or business name in your advertising with the team name. Is that correct?
Yes.
Does it have to be the same size as your brokerage name?
So your company's, this is funny. So we've been messaging this to everyone. All right. So your company's name / qualifying broker's name has to always be the same size or largest font on an advertisement. So your team name cannot be larger than your qualifying broker company's name. And it still has to also be prominent. So we still have to be able to see it. So you can't go hide your qualifying broker's name and hide something else on there. We still have to be able to see it. So
I have a question. How does that apply to social media?
we're going to be posting as much assistance as we can on our website, because I know social media is just becoming, I'm going to call it a problem, but it's becoming so prevalent. Everyone's using it. It's everywhere. It's on your phone, it's on your computer. And so we will be giving some updates and samples of what your social media should look like, but everything, it needs to be prominent. So in a video, you either need to say it or the first thing that you put in a video, it needs to either pop up on the screen or you need to say your qualifying broker or company name in it. It needs, if you've got 20 pictures, it needs to be the first picture. If every single time you do a post on Facebook, that indicates that you're a real estate agent, I need to be able to quickly see your qualifying broker company's name on it. So every single piece of social media, your videos, your Twitter, can't even keep up with all the different names, X, Snap, I want to say Snapchat, but everything that you do that is
Well,
advertising.
anything other than TikTok. 'Cause we don't do TikTok for us.
Yeah, we're not allowed to log into TikTok, but we will, if somebody sends it in, we will still investigate it. But TikTok is banned from state agencies.
Yes, ma'am.
So, back to the question about also having the brokerage name on there. Will there be certain wording like powered by or brokered by to be standard for the teams? So ABC RE Group brokered by ABC Realty or powered by or,
We won't require brokered by or powered by, as long as the qualifying broker company's name's right there, you're fine. And I know some people use that term now, but that's not required. It does explain it a little bit better. But you also sometimes only have so much surface space in an advertisement, so.
Marie had a question. Have we answered your question, ma'am?
No, I was just gonna ask that when there's a question from the audience that's there, if that question could please be repeated.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments about Serena's info? Yes, ma'am. Oh, no, please. Don't be sorry.
No,
This is
I was
important.
thinking about the logo. So if the team has a logo, does the brokerage logo need to be inside of the team logo or separate logos?
So we'll review anything that people want to send us, because we actually, oftentimes we actually need to look at the advertisement to see, is it prominent? Is your company name somewhere different? Is it in addition to your logo? And so we really have to kind of look at every situation to see what is it going to be. But the logo is also included in that. So your company name still has to be same size font or larger than any writing or logo on there as well.
Okay, great.
Yes, ma'am.
I would say too, is it okay, Serena, if, say, someone is forming a team and they just want to make sure they're all good, excuse me, just send it in for you guys to look at and approve?
Yes, for sure. We review advertisements, anything that anybody needs help with, we're happy to review. We're happy to give guidance on. And we get people that go, here, I want you to review this before I do a billboard. Great idea, because we don't want to have to ask you to take it down when you have a year contract.
Serena, I've got two questions about social media and teams.
Okay.
First one is, so when this goes in effect October 1st, a team member would need to advertise on social media, agent name, team name, brokerage name, and anything that they're putting out there.
Yes.
And they can either update their profile to reflect my name, team name, brokerage name, or they could include it in the written copy, my name, team name, brokerage name.
Yes, but now you don't have to, if you're a member of a team, we don't require that you advertise that team, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So you could have both a team page and then your independent page,
Okay.
but anytime you do advertise that you are a member of that team, then you have to include all those three things. in it.
So if I'm advertising a listing of the teams, it
Yeah.
would need to be my name, team name, brokerage name on everything I do.
Yes, and brokerage is the biggest.
Okay.
Just to clarify for educational purposes, there's not a law that says that you have to have your name on there.
But how are they gonna call me, Zach? I
Well, your phone number could be there, but it doesn't, I just want to make sure because we'll get calls from somebody that says, this person's name's not on their advertisement, and y'all need to write them up because Serena and Marie said so. So
Sorry.
just making sure.
Okay. And then my other question is, just some best practices around video and reels with a couple of the social media platforms. They're only video or they're only predominantly show reels and stories and videos. Do y'all, best practices? You said the logo or the company name needs to be somewhere in that video. Do you prefer it be like the whole time during that video as a preference? I'd realize it might just say it needs to be on there the one time. But what are some best practices around logo, team name placement in a video format online?
So the requirement is it's got to be at the front. Best practice would be great if you could keep it up there, some sort of running item. But I also understand a lot of people aren't, it's very easy to film a quick video. Not easy to go input things for a lot of people in the video. So we require you at minimum, say it at the beginning, but if you can put in writing, if you could keep it through the whole thing, that's a great best practice because people will screenshot things. And sometimes that screenshot becomes itself a form of advertisement. And so it's great if you can do it, but at minimum, it's got to be at the beginning because I'm not going to watch a 10-minute video on YouTube of you showing a house to get to the very end where you go, all right, ABC Realty, thank you. You know, and so beginning's required, but best practice would definitely be throughout the whole thing. And we had another question, well, actually it's popped up several times about teams. So if you've got a husband and wife and they're working as a team, but they're not advertising as a team, they're not holding themselves out to be a team, they just are helping each other. You don't now have to suddenly create yourself as a team, create a team name. You can function as a team without having to register it with your qualifying broker. But if you start holding yourself out as a team, husband and wife team, or just best friends, and you start going, we're the whatever team, that's when you have to start registering with your broker. So if you're just helping people out, that doesn't mean you suddenly have to become an official team.
Mother, daughter would be the same.
Yes, mother, daughter, you know, any of them.
Okay.
Because we've had that question several times. They go, well, you know, me and my husband or me and my friend, somebody may show the house, somebody may do this part of the paperwork. Just because you're acting as one doesn't mean you suddenly have to register.
So if an agent is already enacted their succession plan, they are transitioning out of real estate because some people don't die in the business. They do actually sell their book of business to somebody else. And so they do have that dynamic of a younger agent and an older agent that they're not functioning as a group, but the younger agent is, you know, taking over this book of business. They would not need to advertise as a team unless they call themselves
Yes.
older agent to younger agent team.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I for sure have seen that as well. And I've seen it where they advertise that way too, but I've for sure seen that.
Okay.
We have a question from Thad.
Yeah, can the
Good morning.
morning, can the agent verbalize in a video? Can they say, hey, I work for ABC Realty Company, or does it have to be visual?
The question was, does it have to be visual or can it just be verbal if you take a video when you're announcing your brokerage? The answer is yes, it can just be audio. It can just be verbal. Because again, I understand that a lot of people, I would not know how to put writing at the beginning of a video, and I don't want to even find out how. And so it's for sure sufficient just to do, or, you know, if you're recording yourself, I'm about to go show you this house on YouTube. At the very beginning, go, Serena Cronier with ABC Realty. I'm about to go show you this house. That's fully sufficient.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Wendy.
It's not.
So I have a question about single agency. So how does a licensee get named as a single agent for a buyer or a seller? Is that just done, the broker just says you can be the single agent, or is there a document or something that needs to be done?
The designation
Could you
of a
repeat the question?
oh, sorry. So with the new designated single agency, can that situation be something just verbal, or does it need to be in writing? Is there a process that needs to occur? And the answer is very easy. It does need to be in writing, but we don't say you have to have a specific form yet. I'm not saying one won't come out, but currently it just needs to be in writing. So an email, a form, a contract, any of that's sufficient, but it needs to be in writing, and then it needs to be put in your file for preserved issues to make sure that if we do an audit, we don't have a question of was this actually designated. So it does need to be in writing.
Other questions? Questions? Comments from the panel on any of Serena's points? Wow.
I want to go back to something that we spoke about earlier about the having your name on the advertisements. If you're advertising as a team, at least one member of the team does need to have their name on the advertisement. That is a change that we need to clarify.
Can you explain that more, sir?
Okay. So on your typical advertisements, if you're not advertising as a team,
Give me an example of, like, I put an ad in a kids book for the ballpark, like
Right.
with the, like an advertisement for the high school football team.
Anything that you're promoting yourself as a real estate agent, whether it be on social media, a billboard, a sign, any marketing material. If you're just advertising as an individual, you do not have to have your own personal name on it. But if you're marketing your team, the team's advertisements do need to have the name of at least one individual on the team.
But it could be any member.
Okay, so if I'm buying, because it's football season coming up, and so if I'm buying an ad for the high school football program and I'm the team leader, and the name of my team is the Best Realty Team, and so there's not a name already in it, that football ad now needs to have a team member name in addition to the Best Realty Team in that football ad, and a picture of all my agents in there, all of that. There needs to be also a name on there.
Right.
Okay. I can no longer just advertise the team.
Right.
That's right.
Okay.
Questions, comments, comments from the panel? Anyone?
So
Any-
I do,
Yes, ma'am.
great job. And I just want to, reiterate what you said, that the team lead does not have to be a broker.
It does not. And I try to make sure I say that every time we talk about it, because I know with some of our other drafts it was.
Yes.
And that was taken out. And so now it can be any licensee, it can be the team leader.
And they don't have to be licensed for any period of time.
Nope. They do not.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Serena, did I understand that? Gosh, excuse me. There possibly in the future will be some forms that will be developed to help us as brokers of companies control the things that we need to make sure we have in our files for an audit.
Could there be? Yes. But currently not any.
But there will be.
But we're hoping the answer will be not yet.
Not yet.
Good, okay.
In the meantime, we just create our own if the form's not available.
Other than recad.
We will have an audit checklist if that. We currently have an audit checklist. When this material is in place and the law becomes effective, that audit checklist will change. And you'll get a new audit checklist.
Well, we get to practice up until October the 1st, and then we are deficit if we don't have it.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's why I was asking, would perhaps there be some forms that we might be able to have as brokers to start using? If we want to customize them some, we could, but give us some guidance. We need it.
Yes, ma'am.
That will happen. Michelle, you've had your hand up for a while.
Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning. How are
Traylor.
you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Wonderful.
Good. So I am a licensee in addition to an instructor and school owner. And a question that I get from my office with my license, my sales part of my business, is about the brokerage name. So I work with a franchise of Keller Williams. And it is a big deal because it's KW is what a lot of people reference that by, which we understand, and we've been told by the commission that we should use our DBA name, Keller Williams Realty. That's what my office DBA is, Keller Williams Realty, with the commission. But our logo that's through the franchise agreement has a large KW, and then under that, it says Keller Williams in smaller print. Beside the large KW, we'll have like whatever our franchise name is, like Keller Williams Realty or Keller Williams Metro South or Keller Williams Montgomery. And that's always been a debate. And now I'm trying to help my office bring light to these new changes with new signage and advertisement. And we have a marketing person in-house who's emailed some folks at the commission. And I said, let me take that because maybe I can get it to a better light and I'm another person. So my question is, because the Keller Williams that is spelled out is much smaller than the large KW, what is your suggestion? Because we are trying to figure out how to live under the rule, which we want to do,
Mhm.
and under our franchise agreement. So can anyone, and if we want to take this off the call and you can give me someone to talk to, I am happy to get on a call with that person.
Yes, well, we're happy to review anything you send us, but the short and sweet of it is when we pull up your license in our system, there is two sections of the screen. There's one with your main license name, and then there's a DBA name. And you
Right.
have to advertise on every advertisement as you are licensed. So for instance, if you are not licensed as KW, then the largest font on that advertisement cannot be KW. If you are licensed as Keller Williams, then Keller Williams needs to be the largest font on that advertisement. So that's the short and sweet of it, but we're still happy to look at it. But however you are licensed, either your DBA or your main one, you can do either. So let's say your DBA is KW. Well, that's fine. KW can be the largest font on there, but you would need to have either your main name or your DBA KW if that's going to be the largest font or largest wording on there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Serena, I'm gonna find your email and I'm
Okay.
gonna send it to you, and so you can kind of see what our franchise agreement has us doing, because, you know, it's not easy to go to y'all and we're not asking for a special exception. We're just asking how to understand the rule, and then we're bound by this logo from a franchise, and we're trying to marry the two and do the right thing with, we don't want our agents to start getting in trouble with a $5,000 maximum fine that Keller Williams is smaller than the KW, because that's a franchise agreement piece. So I'm going to email it to you, and then maybe you can help guide me a little bit so
For
I
sure.
can guide this host of agents in Birmingham,
Yeah,
because
that's
it
no problem at all.
comes up in my classes when I teach as I'm in the leadership of the office. So that's why I'm asking the question.
And I'll give everyone my email right now. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, it's Serena, SERENA .Cronier, CRONIER @AREC.Alabama spelled out .gov.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem at all.
All right, I have several questions, so I'll try to move through them as fast as possible. Mr. Bo Goodson? Sir? You're ready. You're unmuted now. You can speak. Okay, we'll move on to Marie. You'll have to unmute. You're not unmuted.
Okay,
Is that you, Mr. Bo?
yes,
Okay, please.
okay. Concerning dual agency starting in October, I'm very familiar with designated agency because I'm familiar with Georgia's law. They've had this for several years. Are you saying that limited consensual dual agency will go away after October 1st? And let me give you an example. If one of my agents wants to sell, who represents a buyer already, wants to sell my listing, and I'm the broker, how would that work in real life? What position would we have to take? In the past, our office policy says that we would be limited consensual dual agency. After October 1, how would that change? The same scenario.
I'm going to give this one to Zach Burr. I don't know if I understood it.
Mr. Goodson, are you saying in your situation that the listing that you're acting as the agent, as the broker, that you have that listing, or that one of your other salespeople have that listing?
No, that I would have the listing. I would be the listing agent and also the qualifying broker.
Okay, in that
And
situation,
one of my agents wants to sell that listing. What position would we all be in after October 1st.
In that situation, you would not be able to be designated single agents because you, the broker, would have confidential information on both sides. So you would need
Gotcha.
to be dual agents and
Okay.
get consent.
Okay, thank you.
Marie, are you still ready? Yes.
I believe I am. Thank you for
Yes,
your
ma'am.
patience.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for yours.
I want to echo what Michelle was saying about franchises. I'm a Berkshire Hathaway franchisee, and we have the same issue with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services being much larger than our DBA Cooper and Company. And we've asked the question before, is it the size of the logo, the size of the lettering, and that sort of thing. So I look forward to some clarification, and I'm happy to send examples. That was not actually my original question, though. And my question goes back to teams. And it is it a situation where, to use a reference we may all recognize, once a team, always a team? So for example, if I am currently on a team, can I not have an action as a licensee, as an individual? Example, if I was selling my own home, I might not want that to be done through the team. Maybe I want to do that as an individual, but if I'm licensed, or not licensed, but if I am recorded as being on a team, is it always a team? And then what is the historical requirement that's going to be needed to keep up with the membership of the comings and goings of the team members? And I'm just thinking, if there's a complaint and you go to the broker and they say you had this agent, well, the team roster has changed. Are they going to be required to keep up with every single change on an ongoing basis, and for how long?
All right, I'll start with the first question about and I'm gonna phrase it the best I can. Whenever you are on a team, can you also advertise and act as an individual? And the answer is yes, you can. You can go off and have your own Facebook page over here with just your regular real estate agent page. And you can also have a team page. So you can both act as an individual or a team. It doesn't prevent you from doing that. It's just if you start advertising as a team and you're working over here on this team, then there's going to be requirements for when you're actually advertising as that team. But you can still be an individual and advertise as you currently are as an individual as well. Does that answer that question?
Yes, thank you.
All right. For the other one, so Mr. Zach Burr, he does our audits, and so I'm going to make him part of this conversation. I would think, yes, you would need some sort of list for the list, and I would think whenever somebody would leave that team, you would cross out their name on your list and you would put left on May 1st, 2025, and then whenever you add a new person, you add them on there. So I think keeping a history of it would be part of that, because part of this is consumer protection, and so we may get a complaint today about an event that happened 3 months ago. And so we're probably going to need to know who was on that team 3 months ago when this incident occurred.
Right. Yeah. So I don't do the audits. We have 3 auditors that are a lot smarter at math than I am. Thank goodness I don't do them, but I do review their audits. And when this law kicks into effect on October 1st, when we do the audit, as part of the audit checklist that they're going to be asking you about, they're going to say, do you have any teams? And if so, please give us a current list of the members of that team. So you will need to keep up with, on how you want to keep a recording, some type of, whether it's a spreadsheet, we don't care how you record it, but we do need in writing a list of who's on the team at the time that we do the audit. Or if we get a complaint from someone regarding a team and we call and say who's on the team, you need to be able to give us who's on the team. So you do have to keep a list, and it's up to the team leader to let you know who's on the team and off the team at all times.
Did that answer both of your questions?
Got two more questions pending, and then we're going to move on to our second set. Time is Janet.
Am I unmuted?
Hello?
Hello, how are you?
Okay, this is not Janet. This is Jenny Willis. I'm sharing her screen. I have a
Yes,
question.
ma'am. Okay.
I'm here, though. I'm
Janet's-
here.
Janet's here, but this is my question. I got confused by when the gentleman asked about two different agents in his office and then was told that, let me rephrase that. In October, my understanding is we're going toward a designated agency concept, meaning that the broker can appoint the listing agent or the selling agent, and there's no more dual agent unless there's one person. Am I correct?
You're correct. So what Mr. Goodson asked was if he is the listing agent as the broker.
Oh, as the
then
broker. Okay.
yes. So in your scenario, there's two people that are either associate brokers or salespeople that have the listing within the company. In that situation, they don't have to get that what used to be the limited consensual dual agency form signed by the buyer and seller. In the situation that you're speaking of, you, the broker, can contact them in writing and say, I'm designating you to be as a single agent and you to be a single agent. And, you know, you're not sharing information. You're both acting as agents on behalf of your clients.
Okay, so in that case, so if there's one agent involved on both sides and both have a contract creating agency, they would be a dual agent. Will there be a state form for that, or would the broker need to come up with something?
In your situation, you're saying is that the same agent is representing both
One
sides,
agent.
or
Yes, one agent on
Yes.
both sides.
yes, if we have one agent on both sides, that is a dual
Dual agent.
agency, and you do need to get consent. It doesn't have to be in a particular format. It just needs to say that they're consenting that you're acting as dual agents on behalf of both the buyer and the seller.
Okay, in my personal opinion, I've been advocating for this for so long. I'm so excited that this is going to come to fruition. So thank you, commissioners.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right, Tamara, and this will be our last question on this particular note. Tamara? Tamara is gone.
Okay, two follow-up or two clarifications. Zach, can we go back to the team's advertising again for a second?
Yes.
It's award season in real estate right now. And so people are getting their rankings from varying advertising agencies. So if my team was ranked at a level in which I want to advertise it because I'm proud of what our team has done, I need to now advertise. I can't advertise that as the best realty team is number 10 in the state of Alabama. I would need to say Anna Marie Ellison. I would need to have a team member name on there. Can I put all of my team member? Like, how do I go about advertising the good work that my team is doing with this new role?
Yes. So you can advertise something like we won XYZ, team won XYZ award. But within your advertisement regarding the team, there needs to be the name of at least one team member in it.
And that name has to be the same size as everything else,
No.
or smaller.
It doesn't have to be of any certain size. It just has to be within the advertisement.
Okay.
And I want to jump in there too. So, because we've had this, even before teams got in here, we've had the issue of people using misleading statements. And so make sure if you're going, we're the number one team, you put in there what you're the number one team of. So I'm number one team in Birmingham division, you know, so make sure you're putting what you are, because we're going to go, tell me you're advertising as we are the number one team. What did you look at to compare yourself against every other team in the state? And so, but if you narrow it down to what you are the number one team of, we're going to go, hey, give me your proof that you're the number one team in Birmingham, you know, and you can go, well, this is what it is. So make sure whatever you're advertising it's grounded in something factual and it's not misleading to other people, because we get that complaint a lot.
I believe in high school, that's called citing your source.
Yes.
Okay.
I love that. Cite your source.
Okay. All right, and then my other question I had is, what Jenny was talking about, going back to designated agency. Um, does the agency being designated from the broker, does there need to be a timestamp of when that designation occurred? And does it need to be at least the date the offer was written? Or is your checklist just gonna say, do you have it? Or do you want the dates to match when the offer was written, like that part of it?
There's no specific requirement in the law regarding this being in, it doesn't say actually in writing. It says you need to designate, but as a best practice, it needs to be in writing, because we're gonna say, did you designate this? Because you could have the salespeople saying, we didn't realize that that our company was representing both sides, and the broker didn't tell us. And then we're gonna say, well, did you designate? How can you prove that? It's gonna have to be in writing in order to be able to prove it. And again, as a best practice, you would want that to have some type of date on it so that you could say when you did it. And it needs to happen before you start providing agency services to both sides. So you might be representing the seller for a long time, and then a buyer comes along, and when your company starts providing agency services to the buyer now, so you're now providing agency services to both sides, you need to have a designation to the two agents to say, it's okay for you to do this. You're now single agents.
Can that be accomplished in the agency agreements that are done at the time of establishing agency? Example, can I put it in the listing agreement? Hey, there's an opportunity for other company agents to show our house in the event this happens, like that type of thing. Same thing on the buy side. We might look at houses that are represented by same brokerage. So can we just, is that?
It doesn't need to be this could possibly happen. It needs to be you are representing both sides.
Okay.
So
In the event.
right, you can't get pre-permission from the client, if that makes sense.
I'm just asking
Yes.
all the possible questions.
And this
Right now,
this is
Zach.
great. It's great.
So,
Because there is a lot of like, this is brand new for everybody. There will be very few brokers that have ever had experience with designated broker before. And I just want to make sure, selfishly, I want to make sure we get it right.
and so the new recap form,
Yes, we have a new rule that'll be coming out very soon. We're trying to get it up through LSA around October, and it'll be a new recap form. It'll have these new terms that we're using in it.
okay,
So with that, we have to transition now. Over the years, licensees have communicated to us that they had some concerns about the standards within the practice, meaning the quality of licensees out there, folks that are practicing and may not necessarily have the skill set necessary to do so. And some are even running companies because past state law allowed a person with a real estate license for 2 years to become a broker. No transactions required. And we, I think, have rectified that, but I will let Ryan Adair get into the details, and I'm sure there will be a flurry of questions to follow.
And I'd just like to say up front, hallelujah.
Yeah, and I have 3 minutes to
Oh,
comment
no,
on this.
no, you don't.
So we'll go into the second hour. Let me start by saying this, because we've been talking about these changes some that are already effective, some that are being effective in October. I want to state right now, and I'll remind you at the end, and maybe a quiz at the end. What I'm going to share with you now will not be effective until October 1st of 2028. So these changes are not immediate. Please don't go around asking your fellow licensees and going to your qualifying broker and saying, we have to do this now. We have to change this. None of what I'm going to say is effective now. It will be years before it is effective because we have a lot of programming to do here to be able to do this. There are different sections that I have. So I want to start by focusing on educators. If you're an instructor, if you have your own school, these are changes that will be affecting you. First of all, there are school bonds. If you have a pre-licensed school, you have to have a school bond. For the longest time, our law read it has to be a $20,000 bond. We're actually added some wording where it says it shall not exceed 20,000, which means in our rule, we're going to identify a different maximum amount for that. So that's going to be reduced significantly for you and your school. So that will be a change that will be coming in several years. Another change is if you have a CE school currently right now, you don't have to pay anything for it. We approve that school. That's going to change to where there will be a fee for approval of a CE school, and that would be $100 per year of our 2-year period. And then there'll be a renewal fee of $50 per year for the CE schools. We've already mentioned the fines. The same thing will be applied to education violations. The maximum will be $5,000 instead of $2,500. On the topic of license examination pass rates, we've been monitoring those, but there's nothing that's been in law regarding how it needs to be addressed. What we will be adding is if the first time license examination pass rate of a school gets below 40%, that's the first time. This is only examinees who are taking the exam for the first time, not including retakes. If the first time pass rate is below 40% for a period of 6 months, then what we're going to do is notify that school of that and require what we call a performance improvement plan. And that plan will have to be submitted to us within 1 month of the notification. And then we'll start working with that school to improve those pass rates. If we don't get that performance improvement plan within that 1 month deadline, then the school will be suspended until we can get the sufficient evidence that we've requested from that school. But we'll continue working with schools to improve the pass rates. And let me just share this. The reason we do that, it's not because we're being picky or we're being demanding. Like Vaughn said, we are audited by the state. And this has been a problem that the state has identified several times in our audit, saying your pass rates are not high enough. You need to do something to improve them. We can't improve those ourselves. We're not teaching the pre-licensed courses. Instructors are. So that's why we have to work with schools to make sure that proper changes are made to improve the performance of their students on the license examination. Let's see. Right now, if you're an instructor or the administrator of a school, you can't do like other licensees and simply say, I would like to request my approval or my license be put on inactive status. Please do that, commission. That's not in our law to allow right now, but it will be. So you can handle your approval and licensure just like brokers and salespersons do and request to be put on inactive status. If you're an instructor, like a pre-licensed instructor who's inactive for 3 years or less, then in order to activate that again, all you have to do is satisfy the instructor CE requirement, just like licensees do. If you've been inactive for more than 3 years, in addition to the CE, what you have to do is attend some kind of training, because we feel like that's getting to the point of being inactive for too long to just simply activate. There could be a lot of changes that take place in that 3, 4, 5, 6 year period. So we'll require some kind of training in addition to the instructor CE for that activation. And then there'll be an activation fee, of course, which will not exceed $50. Let's say that you are an active pre-licensed instructor and you're teaching, but for some reason your broker license is on inactive status. If that's the case, then what has to happen is you have to not only take the instructor CE to maintain that pre-licensed instructor, active pre-licensed instructor, but even though your broker license is on inactive status, you still have to take licensee CE, the 15 hours for all licensees, even though you're not going to activate. And that's going to be required because once again, you have to keep up with what you're teaching. And this is being put in here because we did stumble upon someone who was an active instructor who had been an inactive broker for a long time. And when we audited a course that he was teaching, we saw that he had no idea, he was not current in what was not needed to be taught because he wasn't practicing real estate. So he was sharing information that was years old, that had been changed a long time ago. He was teaching that to current licensees. So that's why we're saying, if you're going to be an active instructor, even though your broker license is inactive, still take that broker CE to make sure you're current with what is taking place in real estate. Late education renewals, if for some reason you don't renew prior to the renewal deadline, in the education renewals, there will be a late fee of $200 per license or per approval for those late renewals. And right now, instructors, you know that after the deadline, you have an extra 3 months to renew late with no late fee. Once again, that is changing to where there will be a late fee But the deadline for that late renewal is being extended to 1 year, not 3 months, but it'll be 1 year. And once again, that's going to be, that's just like the same as licensees, where if you don't renew by the deadline, you have 1 more year before your license lapses. That'll be the same thing with instructors. And just one more thing that's specific to instructors in schools. Right now, if you teach virtually, if you offer online courses or distance education courses, we require certification of those courses to take place through Arello before we even get the content to review and approve it for CE credit or for a pre-license or post-license course. We're going to make a change to where if it's asynchronous, which means it's live, you have your students in different locations. You as the instructor may be in a different location, but it's live instruction. That's synchronous distance education. And for synchronous pre-license course and for synchronous distance education CE course, that's more than 3 hours. So a 4-hour course, a 6-hour course, for those types of courses, there will be a fee, what we call a certification fee of $400 per course. Once again, that's for a pre-license. That's for any course that's more than 3 hours. It can be the pre-license course. It can be, there won't be a post-license course when this passes. So it could be a pre-license course, or it could be a CE course that's more than 3 hours. That's going to require, if you choose us to certify that course, then we will do it for $400. You can choose us to do it, or you can maintain or continue sending this information to Arello and getting their certification. That's going to be your option. But you pay what Arello charges, or you can ask us to do it and pay what we charge with these courses here. The certification fee will be $100 if it's 3 hours or less. So it's a lower fee for 3-hour courses or courses that are less than 3 hours. It'd be that higher fee if it's more than 3 hours. And that'll be in addition to our current approval fee. So there's a difference in the certification fee and the approval fee, because there's 2 different evaluations for each of those. So that's what you'd be looking at, a choice for the certification and then paying the normal approval fee to us. Any questions, because this was mainly for instructors and administrators of schools, any questions regarding what I've just shared with you there before I get into more general information that affects licensees? Yes, ma'am.
You have a
I
question?
just have a question. When you said that, okay, if they, say the instructor says, okay, I can't teach anymore, I have an illness or something, what happens to those students who are part of the way through? I mean, is there something to protect them that there's, I guess they could go to a synchronous class or something, but I would think that would put those guys trying to get their license in a difficult situation.
Yeah, that rarely happens. What this addresses is if the instructor is not currently teaching, but just wants to stop teaching for a while. If it's an emergency situation like that, that's really not addressed in our law, but we could work with the school to make sure that, and that's part of a school bond. If the school has to close and the students are in the middle of training, that bond covers what they have paid that school. So they'll be basically reimbursed for that. But if it's an emergency situation, we can assist the school with the current students.
Right.
And I think we have had that happen, Ryan, in years past, where we had an instructor that had medical issues and could not finish. And I think another individual stepped in and.
Right, there's several options that we've worked with the school on that. Yes, ma'am.
So my question is about the synchronous pre-license and CE. So currently, correct me if I'm wrong, but the school has to be approved through Arello and the instructor has to be approved through Arello.
No, all that Arello does, the things we require that involves Arello is if you're teaching virtually, you have to have the CDEI, which is the Certified Distance Education Instructor. That's offered through Arello. So that will still have to be done through Arello. Then Arello does the certification of the course before because they look at the design and delivery of it. That's what Arello does.
Right.
That's the purpose of the certification. When they do that, then it comes to us and we look at the content. We approve the content of that based on Arello saying this is good with the design and delivery. Then we'll look at the content. So you'll still be involved with Arello with the CDEI, but you have the option of continuing to give your courses to Arello for their certification, or, let me send this to the commission and let them take care of both the certification and the approval.
Okay, so the class is approved through, ARAC. And so as far as the school goes, so we'll just talk about CE. So I'm a CE instructor. I have my CDEI. I have my class certified, and I want to teach it at multiple schools.
It depends on what kind of course that is. If it's a CE course, then yes. Because you as a CE instructor can teach for different schools if you want to.
Mhm.
As long as that school is taking the responsibility for the advertising and the record keeping.
Correct.
If it's a pre-licensed course, you can't jump around to different
Right.
schools because you as the pre-licensed instructor will have your own school,
Right.
which has to, that licensed school, which has to offer that course. Is that answering your question or?
Sort
am I
of.
misunderstanding you?
No, you're good. I'm just wanting to clarify that the course is the one that's being certified, right?
Correct.
The course.
It's the course.
And then the school doesn't also have to pay an additional certification.
No, courses are approved for instructors.
Right.
So you as the instructor will be paying either Arello or the commission that certification fee and then paying the commission the approval fee. Those go to us because that course is yours and you'll pay us for that course.
So for the school, do they have to do anything to say that we're gonna offer synchronous courses if the instructor has already course?
Just proper advertising.
Okay,
But there's no approval the school has to submit to us to be able to do that
That's
because the courses belong to the instructor.
perfect. Thank you.
Are there any questions from attendees? Questions? So far, there's more to come.
I'm
But-
sorry, I have a
Questions, no questions? Panel?
follow-up real quick. So pre-license though, so not CE. So we have so in that case, the school would have to be approved because
It has to be a
school
licensed,
is
it has to be a
often-
licensed school for a pre-licensed course to be offered
right,
through that
but
school.
for the synchronous. That's what I'm asking.
Pre-license has to go to Arello as well for certification until this comes into effect, and then you can choose Arello versus bringing it to AREC.
But
But
the,
pre-license has to be certified and
but the school doesn't submit anything to Arello. That's the instructor.
Okay, so the
Right.
pre-licensed instructor.
The pre-licensed instructor who'll be
Perfect.
teaching that course
That's what I
takes
needed.
care of it.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Other questions before we move on?
I had one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr.
I'm sorry.
Poe. Ryan, with the certification that the real estate commission will do, will that have a time period on it as well, just like Arello does? And then you'll renew it every 2 years, 3 years?
Very good question. And that's what we'll cover in rules. But yes, it will have it's only good for a certain period of time. And probably what we will do in the rule is equate that with the course renewal and the instructor renewal. So instead of having two different kinds of deadlines, like you renew your stuff in your school by this date, and then next year or by April of next year have to renew the certification.
Mhm.
We want to equate those to eliminate confusion and oversight. So just like now, if you get a course approved in April, the second year of our approval period, you still have to have that course renewed before October of that same year.
Right.
It'd be the same thing with the certification. The renewal and the certification will be based on this, have the same deadline, regardless of when the approval or certification took place. Like I said, that's just makes it easier for everybody to keep up with as far as the deadlines. So, but that will be addressed in a rule at the proper time.
Thank you.
Any questions from attendees, viewers? Once, twice, thrice? Okay, right.
Okay, let's continue now. This does involve more than instructors. This involves all licensees. And it's part of the licensing process. So let's start with the salesperson. If someone wants to get licensed as a salesperson, what's not changing, what we currently do is require the 60-hour salesperson pre-license course and then the license examination, because that pre-license course prepares people for the license exam. No changes in those first two steps at all. Right now, after someone passes the license exam, they can immediately apply for that temporary salesperson license and then have a certain period of time to finish the post-license course. No more. That will change when? Not now. In 2028. Thank you.
Was that a quiz?
And then you pass that quiz. Yeah, that will change effective in 2028 to where when the license exam is passed, then there is no license issue. There'll be a second pre-license course that has to be completed before a license is issued. The first pre-license course prepares for the exam. The second pre-license course prepares the individual to have a license before the license is issued. So we will teach individuals how to use a license. And then when that's completed, then the license can be issued. There'll be after passing the exam, there'll be a 90-day deadline for that second pre-license course to be completed. So you can't drag your feet, and most people don't want to. I mean, if they've started getting a license, they want it as soon as possible. So I don't think that deadline will be very important, but there will be a 90-day deadline. And then once that is completed and the temporary salesperson license is issued, then the qualifying broker is going to accept responsibility for the actions of that new licensee if, actively licensed with the company. Or that individual can request that the license be issued on inactive status. Up to the individual. Give me an active license, I'm going to start practicing. Or, hey, just give me an inactive license right now. I want to wait a little bit longer and wait a few more years before I actually get started. Same thing with the broker license. Pre-license 1, same thing, prepares for the exam. Pass the license exam, then there'll be a broker pre-license 2 course to be more specific with the requirements of someone with a broker license. Because there is more involved in that. Some people don't really agree with it, saying I'm an associate broker and I do the same thing as a salesperson. But if you get a higher level license, you need a higher level of training to hold that license. So that's what we're adding to the licensing process, is a second pre-license course for both of those licenses. As I stated, the license renewal deadline will be the end of September. Well, no, I didn't state that. I apologize. Let me share this with you. Right now, as you're aware, there are 2 different deadlines that you have to abide by. You have to renew your license by the end of August of every even year to avoid a late fee. But you have until the end of September to finish your CE credit and make sure that's in your record before being forced inactive. Those 2 different deadlines are effective right now. What we want to do is make that easier on everyone and have a September 30 deadline for both of those. So both the license renewal deadline and the CE deadline will be the same, be the end of September. In case you're wondering, the reason there are 2 right now, this goes way back before I was with the commission, to where license renewal took place not online. You had to mail in your renewal. So we couldn't process all of those, quickly at all. So we needed a month to process the mailed in renewals before the new license period started. So that's why it's always been that 1 month difference. Now that everything is online, no reason to continue that. So we'll move that to the same deadline of September 30 for both of those. So let's go back to the licensing process, where you now are issued a temporary salesperson license. Of course, that salesperson must work under the direct guidance of a broker, because you'll be licensed with the company. But they also, as far as what the training that individual, that new licensee will need, there can be a salesperson who's been actively licensed for more than 5 years with that company who can take care of the initial training of that new licensee. So we're not saying you, qualifying broker, when you get these new licensees in your company, you have to do all the training by yourself. There are other responsibilities of the qualifying broker, but the qualifying broker can designate someone in that company who has good real estate experience to train these new licensees. Is there a question?
Yes, you do. You have a question from Michelle?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Brian, if we could just walk through that timeline just real quick one more time. I have a couple of questions. They take a pre-license, 60 hours, how to pass the test. That's license law, how to pass the test. And that is, again, taking a class exam and the state exam, correct?
Yeah, the 60-hour course, they have to take that content, pass the course exam. When that's done, the school submits the course credit to us. And once that's in our system, then it will be sent to Pearson VUE, who we contract with for the license exam. And that's when they'll have 6 months to pass the license exam as the second step. That hasn't changed, or will not change.
And when they pass that state exam at 6 months, then they have 90 days to complete pre-license 2, which is another 60 hours.
Correct.
Okay. So that 90 days is they have to start it within that 90 days or complete the 60 hours in 90 days?
The way the law is worded is within 90 days of passing that license exam, they have to complete that pre-license 2 course.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify. You see where somebody might say, well, I started it on day 82. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Let's do.
I know, look, because that's gonna come up. I'm gonna call Ryan. We're gonna have a conversation about this later. I just want to ask.
Yeah.
Okay, then so they complete that within the 90 days. Is there another class exam after that?
Well, there should be an exam as part of the salesperson pre-license 2 course.
Right, that's what I'm
Yes.
asking. So I'm issuing another class exam.
And now, and once again,
Fair enough.
that's something that we can address in rule. That's not in statute. Statute doesn't say thou shalt have a course exam in pre-license 2. But that's something we can address in rule, just like salesperson pre-license 1. Let's make sure these students know what they've been taught and can prove it to the instructor before we issue a license.
Right, and that's what I was asking, like, are we gonna confirm that they now know how to do whatever that guideline is for those 60 hours in a class exam, but we're not sending them to another state exam?
No, there's only one state license examination after the first pre-license course.
Okay,
When they complete the second pre-license course, that's when they can submit the application for the temporary salesperson license.
okay, and then, so I'm gonna issue a class exam for my pre-license 2. I send that to you, you issue their temporary license with the broker. Like I confirm with you that they have completed that 60 hours. You're then gonna issue their temporary license, either active or inactive. Is there a deadline for that application to be submitted?
That's within 90 days of finishing that second pre-license course.
Okay, so we're still in 90 days. Okay, I think that, and then what's the deadline for the broker training? How many hours is that? What is that checklist?
Broker will be the same thing as salesperson. The length of the courses and the deadlines.
Okay, and when the salesperson's temporary license is issued, and there's a broker checklist or amount of hours that they have to complete with their qualifying broker as a new agent, they have to complete that part of it in what time frame?
Yeah,
90
and that's information I'm about to share. That was in my next
Okay,
section.
sorry.
But that is 90 days. Just get used to
Okay.
90 days. That's gonna be the,
Magic number.
we kind of like that number.
Perfect. Sorry, I got ahead of you, but I was just
That's
trying
okay.
to write down my timeline. I'm just trying to get it in my head.
I understand, yes. Okay, so let's look at that. Let's get a little bit closer with the temporary salesperson. Oh, another question?
Amanda Adams.
Good morning again, everyone. This is Amanda Adams. Question, Ryan. Remember
Yes, ma'am.
back in the day when, and this has been a few years ago, I mean, a while ago, before COVID, BC, before COVID. Before COVID, real estate schools could have ongoing classes. Whereas if your course was, for example, 16 weeks long, a student could come in at week 5 and then just do the program, finish it, and then come back and do the first 5 at the end. Because that 90 days is such a short turnaround, will schools, is there any discussion about bringing back that ongoing teaching style? Because for a smaller school, you kind of have to wait sometimes to have a post license, now a pre-license 2 course. You have to wait for enough people to actually pass the state exam before you can hold that post license course. So is that a possibility?
It is not, Amanda. I mean, that was something that was challenged legally a long time ago. What we call it, what do we call it? It's been so long.
Ongoing.
Continuous enrollment course, where anybody can jump in a course at any time. And we saw that was, first of all, we were wrong in allowing that because of what had been a judicial decision years before. But the main reason we changed that is because we knew that was affecting the pass rates of schools, because for someone to learn, you need to start from scratch. You need to learn the basic information and then progress through that 60-hour pre-license course to the end. And I'm speaking from experience here, because when I first started working with the commission, I took a pre-license course. I started I found one that was in operation. I went, started attending. I was as lost as I could be because it wasn't the beginning of the course. I didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't learn the terminology at the beginning. I was lost when about halfway through. It's not going to help a student to come into a course at that level, get to the end, and then start at the beginning where the basic information is submitted. That's why we made that change, and that we will not go back to the continuous enrollment.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's look at the temporary salesperson. That license has been issued. So now that individual wants to get an original license or a permanent salesperson license. What's next? There's going to be a 15-hour orientation that has to be completed with the company for that active licensee. It can be focused on residential real estate, commercial real estate, property management, whatever that company specializes in. That 15-hour orientation has to be completed by that new licensee. When it is completed, then what we're going to have is we're required the submission of what we call a core competencies checklist. And that's something that the qualifying broker is going to complete and sign, saying this new licensee knows this, knows this, knows this, knows this, all these basic real estate practices that needs to be learned. The qualifying broker will send us a form, a signed form, saying I confirm that this new licensee knows how to do all of these things, and we'll keep that on record.
Two things real quick, Ryan. So
Sure.
for that, I'm going to call it the specialty area, that course that you're going to do, let's say it's residential real estate. You're not tied to that, right? You could come out, get your license and suddenly start doing commercial, right?
Exactly. And you could have someone who gets licensed with a company to begin with and starts that training and says, this is not for me. I want to transfer to this other company and start a different area of real estate. If they haven't completed that, it's best to take that 15 hours from that new company. But someone who completes the 15 hours in property management and they say, yeah, it's not for me, let me transfer over here. They don't have to retake anything with that new company, even if it's specializes in residential. So it's only a one-time thing they would have to complete.
The, excuse me, on the 15-hour orientation, will you guys provide that, or does the broker have to do it? How will that be?
We'll probably treat that like a lot of our other courses where we can provide an outline. Normally what happens is, as you know, a lot of people like to do everything online today. So we will probably provide an outline for that 15 hours. And I'm sure there's be some online schools who will develop that and the company can purchase that or have that individual. But still, it's not just go take this education and you're done. That qualifying broker is going to be responsible for what's learned and what's taught. Because even if that's taken online and they're trained online, that qualifying broker is going to sign that document saying, I know that this new licensee knows this information. So that'll be the main difference there.
As a follow-up to Ms. Betsy's question, so are you going to review the brokerage's 15-hour orientation? Does it need to be submitted to be approved, or you're just, we trust you?
It hasn't been decided.
Yeah, once again, that's going to be part of the development.
Okay.
But that's a good question, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to require them to submit it to us and pay us to review. I think if there are problems with a company, if we have their individuals coming in for formal complaints, that's when we'll probably look at and say, what are you teaching these people? We'll give them the outline of the content they have to teach, but we're not going to read through each of those trainings to make sure that every word is correct.
And so as I'm looking at this new timeline, at least the first two sections are typically outsourced by the brokerage. They're taking their licensee classes from somebody else. There's a few brokerages that have internal schools, but for the most part, they're not internal. It's just taught by somebody in-house. Real quick on there. So everything's outsourced, and then starting with the 15-hour orientation, at that point, everything turns internally to the brokerage of the new licensee.
Exactly.
And we're responsible for orientating them in a manner in which you're going to share with us. And then the core competencies checklist.
Right.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So let me see if I can decide how to ask this correctly. If someone is transferring to my company and they've been licensed a very short time period, and I am going to be pretty sure that the brokerage from where they started, the broker possibly could have just checked off they knew everything without really ensuring that they do know everything. Do I have the permission to cause them to take that again?
If you're the qualifying broker of a company, you have the right to make your people do whatever you
deal.
think they need to do.
Because that's going to happen. Because I do believe there may be brokers out there, and I don't even mean to say this, but I do believe it, that will just check off because they don't want to take the time to do it the way that it should be done, which is unfortunate. And that's unfortunate for the agent, but then I don't want to rely on what they learn somewhere else.
Right. If you have someone who
Okay.
has a permanent real estate license
Mhm.
or an original salesperson license, they come to your company, you have the right to train them or make them take whatever training that you require as the qualifying broker.
Or I can take away their license.
You can send them somewhere else.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's a great thing to point out because and I'm gonna talk kind of for our legal division, whenever we investigate a case, we look at, is the broker also responsible for this? And so we'll be looking at this checklist going, you checked that you told them not to do this, but they did it. We're gonna be talking to licensee going, did they really train you in this? And we may be having to bring brokers in front of the commission because they failed to do what they were supposed to do. So this checklist should be helpful for qualifying brokers to kind of CYA.
And the agent's gonna say, no, they didn't, just to get out of trouble.
Right.
So you got some gray area there.
So will a signature, so a checklist, so everyone's signing off, will that be a required retention of 2 years, 3 years?
That's going to be submitted to us. We will have that
Okay.
on record ourselves.
Okay. Perfect.
And I have a question. Is it possible for that 15-hour orientation for a school or an instructor to provide that? And then if the broker wants to use that school or instructor, or let's say they provide 15 hours of video on property management, and the broker can say, look, I want you to attend this school or this training that's offered to complete this 15-hour orientation because I'm a busy broker and I was a small company and I'm doing everything here and I don't have 15 hours this week to sit down and train you, but I need to get you trained. So go here to this school and do it.
And that's why we're saying that it can be like an online course, because you have, perfect example, there'll be some small companies and there's not the personnel in that company to do that training. And the qualifying broker may not have the time to do it because that individual's doing everything else for the company. So that's why we're given the option of, it can be a 15-hour online training. But once again, if the qualifying broker says, go take this 15 hours, still that qualifying broker signs off saying, this new licensee with my company knows how to do this, 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 and this because of this training.
Do you see the orientation being a repeat potentially of what they've already heard in their pre-license 1 and pre-license 2? Or is it how to operate at the brokerage?
Once again, we can't get too specific
Yeah.
because companies are different or brokerages are different. But once again, this is where you can specialize because all the training prior to that has been general real estate. If it depends on what the company does. Now, if it's a residential company, then it could be repetitive. But you know what? Repetitive training is good. You need to be trained on something multiple times. It doesn't always stick the first time. So that qualifying broker may be giving someone the same information for a residential company, but there could be some commercial information or property management information with that company that wasn't taught in the pre-license courses that company will need to specify, saying, this is how we do it. This is how commercial real estate is done, different than residential.
And then my last question about just brokerage execution of your new law here is, does it need to be a continuous 15-hour orientation, start, stop 15 hours? Or can that 15 hours, let's say it's a mentorship program. And so the agent is going through a mentorship program for the first 6 weeks. They are licensed at a brokerage. And during that mentorship program, they are piecing out 15 hours in each class of this orientation.
They won't have an original license yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow what you're asking. So you're saying if someone gets a temporary salesperson license.
And and with the new law, they can now write a contract, but they're under supervision of the person. With the orientation, does it have to be, we're going to break this up into 2 days, 6 hours on day 1, whatever, that 6 plus whatever minus whatever 15 to be on the other, like 9 on the other. do we have to do it that way?
Oh.
Or can we say we're gonna break this into 3 hours for 5 weeks?
Yeah, we're not going to say exactly how a training has to take place. We just say that
Okay.
15 hours needs to be completed within this period of time.
Okay, and is it, like I said, for CE classes, the class has to actually be a 3-hour class? Is the 15 hours have to actually clock 15 hours? It's written the same up
We're-
on the top section, and I'm just clarifying if that's what's.
We're going to provide the information that needs to be addressed and hopefully in that, what we provide is going to be 15 hours of information.
Okay.
What, we can't control that. We know that there are some 3-hour CE courses that somebody will take online and finish in 1 hour.
Yeah.
We can't say, we're not giving you credit for that. We don't know, we can't control that. We're not gonna be able to control how a company trains the new licensees, whether it's a full 15 hours or if it was just 12 hours. And they say this, we can't control that. But we'll tell them, this is a 15-hour training. Here's the information that we covered in that 15 hours. Make sure your new licensee completes that.
So Ryan, as a broker, and the agent has taken the 15 hours online, it's not something we created in the office, they did that. So they're gonna bring the form to me to sign off to say they know it. I don't know that they know it, I know they took it, right? I mean,
So you may want to somehow quiz them yourself, not just blindly sign the form. Okay, you're good to go.
so we can't assume that 15 hours taught them anything.
Well, you can, but I wouldn't.
You're responsible for everything on that checklist. And
Exactly.
so, like, for example, if on the checklist it says, I know where the real estate commission's website is located. I know how to get to that website. Best practice would be sitting there right next to him,
Show
go,
me.
show me where that website is.
Okay.
If it's on the checklist that it says, I know that they are supposed to report if they get arrested. Talk to them, go, you know that you're supposed to report when you get arrested. So
Okay.
you're responsible for all the information that you're signing off on.
That's good.
And they say, I know how to write an offer, and they've never written an offer in their life,
Say, show me.
Show me the offer you wrote.
Show.
Let's,
but they haven't written one
So
yet.
really, our job is show me, okay, you took this
Give them
course,
one
let's
try.
show how you
Blank.
practiced it.
I quit.
and,
Yeah.
yeah, trust and verify. That's very accurate.
Dr. Poe, I would just like to add that when we were on the task force, and this has been years in the making, and thank you for your diligence for that. You started this project in 21. And so by the time you finish getting this enacted, it's going to be a 7-year project for you. So thank you to you and your team. But during the task force, we had representatives from residential areas of real estate, commercial, and from continuing education. In those core competencies that we put together, if I remember correctly, there were about 17 core competencies for residential, 21 for commercial. It's an extensive list, and I'm sure that's going to be part of the guidance that Ryan and the team provides for our brokers to be able to check. I would say that core competency list should be compared to the class that your licensee is going to take. And if it's covered in there, then you have a better option that they're going to be trained properly. So check the class before you have them, you approve that they take that and you sign off on 15 hours.
We've got Jennifer. She's been on hold for a few minutes and I don't want her to choke me through the computer. Jennifer, if you would, I'm sorry. Jennifer? No, she's Jennifer Wells. Okay. What about Janet?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, just a quick question, and it was something, Ryan, that you said earlier. If we're in the broker part after they receive the temporary license, you said something earlier about somebody that had at least 5 years of service could be the person that approved the checklist for the qualifying broker.
Well, that individual can be the person responsible for the training.
Okay,
But the qualifying broker still needs to sign that form, not the individual who provided the training. It's going to vary with companies. If it's a large company, that qualifying broker can say, hey, you're good at teaching and training. You take care of these new licensees and make sure they know what they're supposed to do. When you do that and you check and we have that checklist, make sure they know that and then I'll sign it. A qualifying broker of a major company could do that. If it's a smaller company, then it may not have another individual who can do that. But we're just making sure that a qualifying broker has the option of training these licensees himself or herself, or having someone who has real estate experience do that for them.
And do they, the person with the 5-year real estate experience, do they have to have a broker's license? Or is it just a salesperson's license?
It could be a salesperson.
Okay.
The legislation does not specify it has to be a broker licensee who does that. It's just someone, because you could have a new salesperson who hasn't gotten a broker's license yet, who's selling things left and right, very successful. That'd be a good person to train somebody new coming in. But once again, the qualifying broker is the responsible party for that training. So he or she has to make sure it was done properly before signing that form, sending it in to us.
All right.
Can I add to that a little bit?
Please.
Yeah, so the person with 5 years of training would be a salesperson. You could have an associate broker in your company that hasn't been at a licensee for 5 years, but now they have an associate broker license. That person could do the training. And it's important to know that when the salesperson has the temporary salesperson license, right now, before this law goes into effect, they can go out and sell real estate on their own or conduct property management on their own. When the law changes in 2028, until the person gets an original salesperson license, they have to be under the mentorship and guidance when they're performing transactions of the mentor that the broker has assigned, whether it be the qualifying broker themselves, an associate broker, or the salesperson who has at least 5 years of experience.
Yeah, thank you, Zach, because I did not specify that. If it's a salesperson doing it, that person has been licensed for 5 years. If it's a broker, not associate broker, that 5-year requirement is not in statute.
I have a question about the execution of that, which you just said at the brokerage level. So does that mean that the temporary licensee, when they go and they meet a consumer for the first time, it's reasonably possible for them to get their RECAD signed, that the temporary licensee is signing a RECAD and their mentor, like, is that the type of, like, how are you oversighting that they're being assisted with the whole time as a temporary licensee?
We have not got that detailed. It could be something that we get more detailed with the rule.
I'm thinking about
Right.
some other licensed entities in our state. I'll use a stockbroker or something like that while they're going through their Series 6 and Series 7, and they have somebody who has already passed all that. They have somebody like co-sign off on all of their stock trades with them.
Okay.
I'm not saying, I'm just giving an example here, by the way.
Well, there's only.
Is that what you're seeing? Is that what y'all are?
In my mind, the way I envisioned this was not that the mentor would have to sign off on all the forms.
Okay.
But I was looking at this more like when you got a new waiter or waitress being trained, or the new person at Chick-fil-A and the other person standing there with them.
Yeah.
And talking to them about this is what you're doing. That's kind of how I saw the guidance being.
Okay.
There's gonna be a best practice, and then there's gonna be what's required by law.
Okay.
The best practice would be reviewing every document with them. Great if you could put a signature on it. That's another CYA. But what's required by law is that you're supervising them. And so when a case comes before the commission, and it turns out that, they've got the temporary license, and then you never talked to them, you never did anything, you never worked with any transactions, and they go, hey, I don't even know who that person is, we're gonna know.
Yeah.
And so,
So, but potentially just could be a sign-in sheet from where they all get together weekly to go over what they're doing, showing paperwork, show and tell, that type of thing. Okay, yeah.
So we're going to have to take a brief intermission for technical reasons. I guess our mics are getting low. But before we do that, we are fortunate to have one of our bill sponsors, and specifically one of the bill sponsors for this bill, with us this morning. Thank you, Representative, for making time to be here.
Well, thank you. I think that whenever we make changes, brokers and realtors, there's a lot of fear. We're afraid of the changes, as with any industry, but these changes elevate our business. These changes bring professionalism to us and keep us current and keep us offering the public what they need. And I appreciate so much all the work that you've done. We had the easy part on our side because you did all the background work. And I just want to, as being a part of this profession that has been so good to me and my family, that's helped raise my children, pay my bills, you know, bring me great relationships that I've made with people that I've worked with. This is a wonderful, wonderful profession. And we always have to look at the tools and make changes that keep us relevant and keep us professional. So thank you for allowing me to be here today. And thank you for all your hard work.
I would like to just remind everyone again that this is great work product. This is what we set out to do in our task forces. I think this is the standard that licensees have echoed they want across the state, and other states, again, have already adopted some of these measures. And so this is, I think, the way forward for the practitioner body within the state. I think if you look long-term at the changes that are happening in industry, the things that we're talking about now will have to be reviewed again in the future, but we won't be as far behind. I receive a lot of email communication from commissioners and other practitioners, and now everyone's asking about the crypto and real estate, the metaverse and those sort of things. Well, we're still clearing up bad checks here. So I'm going to need a bit more time to change this part, and then we'll look at some other things maybe later. But I think the work that we're talking about here, as exemplified by our attendee questions, is awesome, because these are everyday questions that these folks have. They're in it every single day. They're working in the classroom every day, and they really need to know and want to know. And I think we've done an excellent job of crafting a piece of legislation that answers most of those questions. It's not 100% complete, but what is? But I think the level of granularity that we used in writing the checklist, and I've forgotten about that, Janie, so thank you very much. We put a lot of thought into it. I think that's important to remember. A lot of thought when folks are in the practice, their boots on the ground, doing the work every day, and they said, "Hey, Real Estate Commission, here's what we need. Here's what we need. Can you make it happen?" Well, absolutely we can. So with that, Ryan, I will let you continue. And thanks again.
Okay. All right, we don't have a lot left. We're getting close to the end, but we're still on the topic of a temporary salesperson license. So let's say someone has that license, and once again, they want an inactive status. They don't want to practice right now. If someone has an inactive temporary salesperson license, it has to be renewed like all other licenses. So when the even year rolls around and we get to the end of the summer, if it's an inactive temporary salesperson license, it has to be renewed. Right now, there is no renewal for temporary licenses, but it will be when this becomes effective. Now, let's say someone's been inactive with that temporary salesperson license for more than 3 years. And then they say, okay, now I'm ready to activate. I want to start practicing. They can't simply activate if they've been inactive for that long. They will have to retake that second pre-license course, that salesperson pre-license course that teaches how to use the license. Things could have changed since they had that temporary salesperson license issued. If they're going to be active, they need to have their mind refreshed on how to effectively and correctly use that license. So if inactive for more than 3 years as a temporary salesperson, pre-license 2 has to be retaken. If for some reason that they have not satisfied those requirements that have to be satisfied for a permanent license, then when they activate, then that's when they have to get to license with a company and satisfy those requirements that the qualifying broker has to train. So there will be an option for an inactive temporary salesperson license. We have to put some kind of cap limit on that. So if someone has been inactive with that type of license for 10 years, all over again. They can't just activate with that pre-license 2 course. They have to start from scratch. And that's after 10 years. Hopefully nobody will do that, but we do have individuals who right now get licensed on inactive status because they have another, a full-time job doing something else, and they want to do real estate as their retirement, but that may not be for another 5, 6, 7 years. They'll just keep renewing that inactive, that temporary license. But if it's a temporary salesperson license, then once again, that can only be renewed in the future. It's not renewed now, but people have a permanent license issued now and keep that on inactive status. If it's a temporary license in the future, that can only be done for 10 years before they have to start over again. Now, let's look at a different type of license. Let's get off the temporary salesperson. Let's look at a qualifying broker and what's
Brian, can I
required.
ask you one question before
Yes.
we move on? Because I thought about it while you just mentioned what you just said. There are companies that are licensed as referral companies. And so the agent might be just getting licensed to send referrals out. With this new change, the referral company would have to offer a 15-hour orientation and have that qualifying broker sign off on those things as well.
If it's a licensee with a real estate company, regardless of what type of company it is, that has to be satisfied.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's look at broker qualification changes. Right now, where there is no change is if you have someone, let's look at reciprocal licensing. If you have someone who is a qualifying broker in another state and they want to get a reciprocal qualifying broker license here, there's no change right with that. That's been actively licensed for 24 of the previous 36 months and complete the 6-hour reciprocal broker pre-license course. Now, what is changing is, let's say there's somebody who's an associate broker and they want to serve as a qualifying broker here. This is not the reciprocity. This is just someone here in Alabama. Associate broker who wants to be a qualifying broker, once again, has to be licensed actively for 24 of the previous 36 months. But in addition to that, before becoming a qualifying broker, that individual will have to complete a 15-hour qualifying broker course. So it's kind of like a post-license course, the current post-license course for salespersons. In a similar way, if you're an associate broker and you want to be a qualifying broker, you have to complete this training, 15 hours, to know what are my responsibilities as a qualifying broker. A lot different than an associate broker because you're responsible for a company and everybody licensed with that company. So that 15 hours have to be completed before being issued that qualifying broker license.
And that,
Right, just to clarify, you can no longer just be a salesperson and say, I want to be a QB. You have to do that next step of associate broker, then the QB.
Yeah, because right now that is possible.
Right.
I'm a salesperson. I've been licensed for a while. I want to be the qualifying broker of a company. Submit application. Boom,
Yeah.
there it is.
Right, that's a great job.
With this, as a salesperson, you have to be an associate broker for, is it 3 years, I believe, certain period of time as an associate broker before qualifying for a qualifying broker license. And then to get that license is going to be the 15-hour training for this issue.
And this is important to note because if somebody's planning on retiring in 2028, you need to go ahead and have, especially if you're a small company, you need to go ahead and have that associate broker get their license, keep it active. And so you don't just end up, who's going to be our qualifying broker for our company now? Because we've definitely had those calls where they go, we've got 3 people in our company. Well, start planning now. While you've got years before this becomes effective, start planning now.
so I just want to clarify. So currently 24 months out of 36 months as a salesperson before you can sit to take the broker license to become associate broker or qualifying broker. But with the new rule in 2028, they will have to do that to become associate broker, but then also be an associate broker for 24 of the previous 36 months and take the 15-hour qualifying broker course.
Not exactly. To
Okay.
qualify for any broker license, that's where the 24 of the previous
Right.
36 months comes into play.
Mhm.
And I may have to look at the legislation to get the exact wording or get some assistance. But if someone does get that associate broker license, they have to hold that license for either 2 or 3 years.
It's 24 the last 30.
It is.
Yeah,
24.
that's
Okay,
what I was
okay.
asking.
I'm sorry, Tommy. You're
No,
right.
okay, all right. So I just want to put in perspective for everybody that you have the 2 years or 24 of the 36 months as a salesperson to go to broker pre-license, to get your associate broker. And then you have 24 months of 36 months as an associate broker before you can do this 15-hour to qualify to be a qualifying broker.
It's 24 of the previous 36 for both of those licenses.
Okay,
To
perfect.
move from salesperson to associate broker, then to move from associate broker to
It's
qualifying
24.
broker.
Perfect.
24 of 36.
Thank you.
So whereas of today, you could go from being a beginning salesperson to being a qualifying broker in 2 years. The quickest you could possibly do it come 2028, if you were to get a salesperson license on October 1st of 2028, it would be until October 1st of 2032 that you could possibly qualify to be a qualifying broker
4-year minimum.
for your minimum.
And we talked about some of the drawbacks of that because we talked about the superstars that are out there. However, the way that law has to work, there has to be a standard. We can't have the superstar exception because, again, some of these folks are learning, right? And we've just seen from a prosecutorial standpoint, we have folks downstairs that probably should have waited a little bit, and they recognize that, but when they're downstairs, it's too late already. And so we talked about the superstars, we talked about the folks that hit the ground running, but I think if I remember correctly, the task force just concluded that it's best to have that time. We had variables that we considered initially. One was time, the other was transactions, and I forgot what the third was. It was time, transaction, or something else. We could not use either of those individually because, again, you may have a superstar that gets out there and they're in the millions their first year. Well, time won't apply to them. So we'll have an inaccurate standard for them. I think the process that we came up with, and specifically the transaction requirements per sector of real estate, gave commercial folks an opportunity. They may only have one or two per year, but then the volume or the cost of it, there was some flexibility there where that superstar could in fact get into a company and maneuver a little bit. But we really wanted transactions as well. Time, transactions, and what you hear is experience. The overall process in the corporate sector, I think, would be quality control. That's what we're talking about, quality control. What type of individual are we issuing licenses to, whether it's salespersons or qualifying brokers? And I think the specificity that was used in this legislation is good. And we may have to tweak that a bit in the future. I don't know. Again, the industry changes at a rate that's far, far faster than what we do here. And so 3 years from now, we don't know what will be federal law and what will be state law regarding how we practice and how regulators regulated. So I think the fluidity of it may help us out in the future, but we had a good model coming out of this task force. Sorry, Ryan.
That's okay.
So is there a grandfather? So for someone who is currently, let's say, for October 1st, 2028, they get their broker license, their associate broker. Are they grandfathered in to where they don't have to wait be an associate broker 24 to 36?
Yeah.
I hope.
They will have to have, as of that date,
Yeah.
in October of 2028, you will, at that point, have to be licensed as a associate broker for a minimum of 24 months.
Okay.
Good question. And just let me top this off, just like that 15-hour qualifying broker course, just like it applies to someone here in Alabama who is an associate broker, it also applies to someone who's coming from another state and getting a license through reciprocity. Same thing applies to that individual. They would have to, if they're an associate broker or the equivalent in that other state, and it would be a qualifying broker here through reciprocity, they'd have to finish or complete that 15-hour course before we issue a qualifying broker license in Alabama.
Ms. Smitherman, that was a good question about the grandfathering. And just to be elaborate a little more, let's say that you're currently a qualifying broker, and come October 1st of 2028, just to let you all know, you don't have to go back and do this additional training if you've already achieved the qualifying broker
Then you're,
status, then you're fine.
but not as the associate broker, because
Yeah.
now you wouldn't.
Right, because you have one more hierarchy to climb.
Correct, correct.
You're grandfathered in being an associate broker, but not a qualifying broker.
Thank you.
All right.
I promise, Ryan, I promise you can go this.
We're almost there. Just a few more items. Somebody mentioned, I think, a 1-hour course. I think that came up a little earlier in a question. We are going to allow what you're referring to as 1-hour courses be a 60-hour CE course. I'm sorry, a 60-minute CE course. The difference is right now with a 3-hour course, it's based on 50-minute hours because you need breaks. This 1-hour CE course is not going to be a 50-minute course. It's going to be a 60-minute course. There are no breaks. You're being taught for 60 minutes. So don't think that because they're 50-minute hours now, let me take this 1-hour CE course and then we can go on in 50 minutes and take a break. No, that's going to be the difference there. But we will allow 60-minute courses as part of the CE requirement, requiring 60 minutes of instruction. And the last two things are kind of, we've already mentioned in some way earlier. A salesperson who is inactive for more than 3 years has to complete that second pre-license course, the salesperson pre-license course before activating. Same thing with a broker. If inactive for 3 or more years, in order to activate, have to complete that broker pre-license 2 course before doing that. But once again, it's the period of time of having inactive license. And the only other thing I have is the final exam, which is, the question is, when does this become effective? October 1 of what year?
2028.
Thank you.
Yeah, we pay.
All right, are there any remaining questions from our attendees? Any questions whatsoever? Comments, concerns?
I have a comment.
I'm gonna do a roundtable, let all of you have
Okay.
comments.
Okay.
We're gonna do closing remarks because I know there's a lot more that you all have that you want to share. So with there being no comments, we will start on this end of our panel with Commissioner Eccles and have final comments across the entire panel.
Only final comments I have is thank you so much, Vaughn, all the legal, all the people that worked on this, this whole staff here. I think we have really made a step forward. And I think this is just a wonderful change toward this professionalism. You can't always teach professionalism, but you can make people be professional by the laws and the rules. So thank you.
And I will say ditto. And then I would like to add, the sooner as the qualifying broker, we can have the additional rules and or suggestions for documents, the sooner we can have those, the better for us to be able to get them into place so that we will be able to do a good job and have our agents ready before October the 1st, 28 hits. That's not the time to start preparing. That's the time when you have to execute. So the sooner the better.
I would, going along with what Ms. Commissioner Campbell just said, you know, you've got a little over 100 days to determine what your plan of execution is on the changes that occur on October 1st. That's for all of you that have read, you know, the 12-week year, that's 12 to 13 weeks to make some changes and to figure out what that looks like for your brokerage. I hope the sister part of the associations and the sister organizations that all work with licensees are looking at the forms that they put out there so that those changes can be made. All your digital signature platforms, they're going to need to be updated with these new forms as well so that you're ready to go October 1st, and they know not to make them available to October 1st. So there's just a couple of other places that work with around what we do, but you've got plenty of time to do it if you don't wait till the week before October 1st to do any of that. Yeah.
Attorney Burke?
Yeah, so my comments are more thank yous than comments, I guess. I want to thank Ryan for your work on this education bill. Ryan has to be the most detail-oriented man that I've ever met. And it took a great deal of detail to plan all of this out. And if you read it, you can see this, it's well thought out. He had the help of the task force, but I assure you, Ryan stressed over every word that we had in this and came and spoke to us all about it. And
every hyphen.
he was very hands-on throughout the whole process, and even helping explaining it at the State House to help get this passed. And also thanks to our representatives, Representative Wood, who was here, and Representative Hollis for helping get the bill through. And then lastly to Serena Vaughn and Starla, who's not here. Starla is even more introverted than I am and did not wish to be on the panel today. But Starla did help play a key role in drafting the legislation that we passed and helping get it across the line. And so I want to thank the three of them for their hard work as well.
Thank you. I want to remind everyone to check our website weekly. We will try to issue as much assistance and guidance. I know there's been so much stuff that passed. And so check our website weekly for any new forms, any new cheat sheets. The legislation's already on there. Make sure you actually read the legislation. While we gave you summaries up here today, you are required to know and practice what is in that legislation, and that's what the commission holds you to. So read the legislation so you make sure that your company is complying with it. Make sure you pay attention to the effective dates as well. We've stressed it so much today, but we had rules that became effective this year. In February, I think another one came out another month later. Then there was another bill that came out in April. We've got this one coming out in October. We've got the other one in October of 28. So make sure that you are aware of everything that has passed and when it has become effective and when it will become effective, because that's what you're responsible for. And just remember that we are a consumer protection agency. So some of the stuff that you'll see in these laws, it's to protect consumers. It's to assist licensees, but that's what we're here for. So thank y'all for y'all's time.
And my final comment will be, once again, the effective date of everything I discussed. And I keep saying that, so hopefully it will stick with some people. Because what we have to do, our IT division has to do a lot of programming with these changes for our system. And then in addition to that, at the proper time, we have to get all the rule amendments approved to be more specific with what's in statute. So that will be coming in prior to the effective date of this, which is when?
October 2028.
2028. So if you hear someone talking about this change with education, we have to do this now, please correct them or send them to us so we can make sure that they understand that nothing is effective right now. Nothing is changing as far as education licensing right now. That will be in the future.
We're gonna get stickers that go on the car that said October 1, 2028. I would just like to say, it has been an honor for the Alabama Real Estate Educators Association to be involved in this project and to see it come to fruition. The task force spent lots of hours, and to have it put together in a format that you can read, present to the legislature and pass was phenomenal to see that happen. And thank you, Dr. Poe, to you and your team for sticking with it and not giving up, because you have been working on this for a long time and will continue to work on it for a long time. And on behalf of the AREA board and the past 3 boards of AREA, we say thank you for letting us be involved. We started 3 years ago on trying to develop our instructors to help them become well prepared for this coming change. We knew it was going to happen. We've made a concerted effort to study the adult learner. The adult learner is different than the high school learner, the elementary school learner. They bring to the table lots of experiences. We've started studying the adult learner so that we can apply our curriculum to them the way they need it to be delivered and match it with the proper assessment tools. So we have really been working hard on our end. We'll continue to work towards achieving this goal with you. And we are here to support the commission however we can, writing classes, delivering classes. And we just appreciate you and thank you for letting us be a part.
Yes, ma'am.
Ditto that. No, definitely. It's been an honor to be a part of the task force. Before I even became the president of the Birmingham Realtors Association. So as a practitioner, it was great to be part of the task force, to actually, carve out all of the things that we want to see in our industry. And it's great to work with ARAC on the bills and the other trade organizations to make sure that Alabama has a high level, right, of excellency. And I'm excited. I'm excited about the changes. I'm excited to see that the bills pass, because that was a task right there. I know for you all for sure, but the main thing, especially being a president of a trade organization, just making sure that all trade organizations make sure their members are aware of the changes, not just the summary, but understand what has come out and what's going to come out and how it's going to impact each licensee and our state. So, but thank you again, Dr. Poe and ARAC and your whole team.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we are wrapping up and we're giving a lot of thank yous. I always thank my staff for everything that they've done. There's a lot of support people that you all don't see on the panel. Some are here in the audience. Some are downstairs hiding in their offices. But they really work hard on this. They've worked hard on it. They're working hard on it now, and they will work hard on it in the future, because now we're transitioning to the implementation phase. I mean, this is project management 101. It's not that complicated, but now we have to implement. Well, there are 3 different phases, 3 different projects, 3 different timelines, and a whole lot of things that happen in the interim. So we've already started to work on it. I'll publish more information from my desk probably in the coming days to make sure all licensees are aware that we do have a plan. Here's what it looks like. Here's what you can expect. And that will allow them to tap back into the commission's resources to see where things are. As parts of the process are completed, it'll be published. Everyone will have it. But I want to thank our CPR staff in the back You see the folks with the headphones on. They make the magic happen. We used to do this for commission hearings some years ago. And so every month they went into production mode and they were trying to make a movie basically. And so I want to thank them for that. And I also want to thank Alabama Realtors. We had a very high level negotiation there at the State House. They talked about their interests. We talked about ours. We compromised, and that's what you see here. And I think that's the way the process should work. No one got everything that they wanted, but everyone walked away feeling okay with what passed. And that's why it passed, because if there was any, dissension, it probably would not have. But this was about licensees. And so it needed to move forward. So I'm grateful for that. Franklin, do you have anything? Okay, Franklin is with us. But I want to thank AAR, absolutely so. And also NAREB and AREA and anyone else out there that helped with this process. We requested a lot of information because we did not want to get bogged down at the agency. I don't write contracts. I don't close transactions. I'm an administrator. But in order to do my job effectively, I've got to have you all that are out there to let us know what should happen so that we can kind of get it right the first time. There's nothing wrong with making a mistake here or there, but if we can get it right the first time, that would be awesome. So stay tuned. There will be more information to follow. This particular recording will be published in the coming days on our website and social media, and we'll also have some other announcements on social media as well. So if there are no remaining questions, and I don't see any at all from anyone, not even Amanda Adams. So I want to thank you all for your time wholeheartedly, and have a wonderful week. And we'll see you tomorrow morning at the commission hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.